Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema, and I'm also a writer for Geek Vibes Nation.
Yes, and I am Dillon Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for Geek Vibes Nation, also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. As always, I am so excited to get into all these great movies. And with that, I'm gonna let Dillon, you take it away.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, I'm starting off with one of the biggest movies of the year so far, and that is Disney's release of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Yes, on 4K Ultra HD. So yeah, this 4K copy. As always, you get some disc art with the 4K disc and the regular Blu-ray disc. This 4K disc comes with Dolby Atmos audio, which is really nice, especially anyone familiar with a Doctor Strange film. There's a lot of like universe bending, like reality bending nonsense going on, which is a lot of fun. So, and like that's really cool in Dolby Atmos because there's like sounds like really complex sounds over top and like all throughout the surround channels, and it looks great too with the high dynamic range. I compared this to the Disney Plus stream, and of course, like they do a 4K stream, but it's nothing compared to disc because you get that like perfect encoding and like really like crisp, like nice compression. You don't get any artifacts like you do on Disney Plus. So I'm really glad to own this on 4K Ultra HD. I won't go too much into the film itself. One, because I think everyone pretty much like everyone saw this in theaters except me, but also because a lot of the plot I think would kind of could be easily spoiled. I will just say, like, overall I liked it. I thought it was a really solid movie. There are certain developments that I feel like I'm personally disappointed by, but the way they set it up, I understand the way it went, and I think it works out narratively, even if I'm just personally just like, oh man, I wish that wouldn't have happened. But I think it's a solid movie, especially because this is through the direction of Sam Raimi, who like interjects a lot of great like horror elements to the Marvel universe, as much as Marvel will allow, at least. There are some like kind of little gnarly special effects, like classic like eyeball pulling out of like a large monster socket, which is a lot of fun. Which gets me to kind of one of the things I like most about this disc is the special features. Not every Marvel disc comes with a commentary track, but this one has a commentary track with Sam Raimi and the writer and the producer, and I learned a lot from it. There's a lot of like Easter eggs sprinkled throughout that even like fans who might realize or like might catch a lot of things throughout, they might catch even more with this. Like there was the monster I just mentioned, there was an Easter egg involving, they copied someone's eye. I'm going to be vague because I don't want to ruin the plot, but they copied someone's eye and made that monster's eye like that person's eye to kind of like set up where kind of the plot was going, but it's kind of like an Easter egg for fans, or just like the little touches that they sprinkle throughout. So yeah, the commentary track's really great. There's a lot of great featurettes, including just like little pieces on Sam Raimi himself and like the directions the story goes. And yeah, so this is just kind of like a nicely well-rounded release. 4K Dolby Atmos. If you're 4K capable, I highly recommend this. And I know there are a lot of MCU fans, and this disc will not disappoint you.
Nice. Yeah, I'll just add real quick. I really like the movie. We were able to see it pretty safely at our local theater, so that was definitely worth it. And like you said, there's a commentary track, and that's my favorite. So I am sold. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that one out. And so my next one is actually a pair of Mill Creek titles, and I'll go through these pretty quickly. They couldn't be more different also. So this first one is Baseketball, and so there's the cover. So it's a running joke in my household that my husband makes fun of me for liking basketball, and I don't care. I love it. I think it's a great movie. So it's kind of funny because last week we talked about having I didn't really kind of jive with One Crazy Summer, but I suspect that while I think it's a solid enough film, I think that it's like nostalgia is like carrying a lot of this. I know not in the case with you, but I'm just saying like
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
But I only mention that because I feel like this is probably the same for me. Like I'm very nostalgic for this movie, and like rewatching it, like yeah, a lot of the humor is very hit or miss. It's very cringy, but it does kind of have that Trey Parker, Matt Stone, like sharp satirical edge that I think kind of keeps it fresh and relevant. And I love the cast. I really like Jenny McCarthy's in this. Ernest Borgnine is always great. He's always a win. Yeah, it's overall really fun. So this I believe is sourced from a I believe 2017 Universal transfer, which is actually really good. Again, kind of like with the other Mill Creek titles, it seems like they've been sourcing them from older, but still really nice looking like HD transfers. So you get a really nice, crisp, clear picture. Colors really pop. This is a very vibrant movie. It's almost like it's not quite cartoon level, but it's almost there.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
It's been a long time. I think I own the DVD, and I had the Blu-ray for a while, but I haven't been able to check it out, like the original Universal Blu-ray. But I've been wanting to revisit it for a while.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Again, some of the jokes haven't aged well. There's definitely some like I know there's one like pretty cringy, not super homophobic joke, but it is a little bit like skirting the line. But
Yeah.
I still liked it. I thought it was funny, despite some of that. But my I really wish I would like this next title, but I don't. And it's De Palma's Black Dahlia.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen this one?
Yeah. I haven't watched it like it's been like 2 or 3 years ago I rewatched it, and
Yeah.
let me get your take on it first.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I remember not really liking it when it first came out, but then I've seen a lot of De Palma since then, and I kind of wanted to go in like with this edition, like just really like fresh, and I still don't like it. Like it's set up to succeed so hard, like this is like post Scarface, De Palma, like he's like people wanted this to kind of be like the Untouchables, but it was not. Like the writer of LA Confidential, like worked on this. So it has so much going in its favor, but it's a mess. It's just it's very bloated. It's just bogged down by a lot of like really bad kind of side plots, and the acting is just horrendous. Like there is so many good actors giving such weird stilted wooden performances. Like it so wants to be pulpy neo noir, but it's just not good. And honestly, like the Black Dahlia stuff is kind of the least interesting part of this movie. Like it's baffling. But I went into it with like an open mind, hoping that maybe like it was like some undiscovered gem of a movie, but no, it's really not good.
Yeah,
um,
I remember it being kind of convoluted and just kind of lacking. I have heard, I don't think it'll probably ever get released. I have heard that there is like another like De Palma cut of the movie that's like maybe his version was like cut down or like made. So I'm not sure if a longer version would appeal to you, but I would be interested to see like another version that is possibly his version, to see if anything can be salvaged from kind of the mess that I remember this being.
yeah, I don't want a longer version of this. I want a shorter, condensed, like like listen, I understand that you can have like layers to the Black Dahlia case. Like I don't think that necessarily like these side quests like are inherently bad. I just think that they don't work in this case. Like they just kind of, like I said, bloat the runtime, and it's kind of unfortunate. But what I will say is this also seems to be sourced from a newer Universal transfer, and again, it looks really good. Like the way this movie's shot, it's almost like sepia toned. So you get it definitely isn't the most crisp and vibrant looking movie, but you can tell that it does look really nice with this new transfer. So take that for what it's worth. If you're I'm happy I own this just because like I like Brian De Palma and I like having everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, so if you're interested, it's at a good price right now. It's bare bones, but if you just again, if you like the maybe you like the movie and that's fine. Or if you're just like me, a completist, and you want everything that De Palma's done, there you go.
Yeah, our kind of addiction slash completism to certain directors and talent, it sometimes bites us in the ass, but it's who we are. What are we gonna do?
And again, the nice thing about Mill Creek is usually when they source their transfers from other like labels or companies, like they're usually really good and they're affordable because they don't like give you all the bells and whistles. If you just want the bare bones movie, you know, you also, I think maybe this is like 10-11 bucks on Amazon right now. So
Yeah, I appreciate whenever they do that and they don't try to cram it with 2 or 3 other movies into like a multi-pack thing. I like whenever they can at least just, if they're going to re-release things, just do like a dedicated disc like this. So like both of those releases, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So next up, this is a release I'm very excited about from Shout Factory and G Kids, because I'm an anime fan, as you know. It is the new release of Nadia, The Secret of the Blue Water, the complete series, which I believe is from the late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And okay, so as usual, you got to forgive me with like certain pronunciations. So yeah. Before I get into that, I'll just show off. This is a 5-disc set here, with all 39 episodes from the show's run. And it also comes with this nice character booklet, so you get to see like some of the designs of like the characters and all that. So I appreciate that. Single-sided wait, nope. Oh, there's not reversible cover art, but there's like a background that you can kind of see here for whenever you open up the disc. So this is from Hideaki Anno, who is the creator. He would go on to create Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is one of the more popular like anime franchises / series that I know. I've always, even though like I'm not the most hardcore anime fan, I'm probably like more populist than a lot. But like even I think fair weather anime fans know about that show. But this one I had actually not heard of, and it was interesting to see like kind of the origins of his talent. So this is a new 4K restoration from the original elements, and the story itself. It's set in 1899, 1889, and it concerns a young French inventor. He's like a teenage inventor, and this girl that he meets up with named Nadia, who has like a little pet lion, and she is in the possession, I'm not sure if you can see it, of this little amulet / like jewel called the Blue Water, which she doesn't really know anything about. She just knows that she has it, but there's these outside forces who are trying to kind of like get her jewel, basically. So it's kind of like a adventure series where each week it's like 30-minute episodes, and each week you see these two and the little lion going on like different adventures and going around kind of the world and like all the adventures they get on in their travels, and it's a lot of fun. The kind of adversaries that are tracking them I'm not sure if you've probably ever watched this, but for people who have ever watched like Pokemon, like the Team Rocket dynamic where it's like three adversaries tracking our heroes, it's kind of the same way. There's like two kind of like henchmen and then like a redheaded figure who is trying to track them down. I was seeing if there was a picture of her, but yeah, there's a this series, like I said, it's 39 episodes. There are kind of threads that go throughout, but you can pick up a lot of stuff kind of episodically. So it's like there's some contained stories, like people they meet and like the adventures that go on each episode, and then the overarching, like you're getting character development and like backstory about these characters. And like one of the characters, like his like father has been like lost at sea for a couple years, so he's like trying to unravel the mystery of that and like what exactly happened to him. And there are a lot of like kind of mini mysteries throughout, like that play out really well. So this was a fun discovery. It looks incredible. I've never seen the show before, but I've seen like a lot of anime of this like era, and I can tell that the 4K restoration really brings out the colors. There's not like any debris or artifacts, specs, or anything like that, so that's really nice. There's not too much in the way of special features. Mostly it's just like little like TV spots and like like a prologue, and like mostly it's just like kind of like having these episodes in the best quality possible. I will note there is both the original Japanese and an English dub, which I did look or listen to a little bit of the English dub, and it's actually one of the more natural dubs. Like there wasn't a lot of stuff like characters I thought sounded like completely overblown or anything. I think it was very natural. But personally, I always will stick with the Japanese, but just for the purposes of reviewing this, I checked out the English dub and it sounded good. Those are both in DTS 2.0 lossless audio, so they both sound great. So if you're an anime fan, especially if you're a fan of this creative, Nadia, The Secret of the Blue Water will be out soon from Shout Factory. They did a great job with this. I'm so glad they keep kind of rescuing some of this older anime for a new audience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely need to do more anime. I know you had the great idea of like doing like how I kind of did like a deep dive with you with Giallo. Maybe I need to do that with like anime. So like you can be like my Yoda with teaching me the ways of the anime.
I'll do what I can.
So my next one is a really cool set, and that is the Maria Montez and John Hall collection, and this comes from Kino Studio Classics. Here is the back, and as you can see, we have some nice commentary tracks. These are a lot of fun. It was so funny because like when I interviewed David Delval, who does a commentary track for Gypsy Wildcat, which I'll get more into because I think that was my favorite out of the set. But I'll link in the description. But I had a really great interview with him where we talk about these movies in a little bit more depth. But like they're really fun. They're almost kind of like old Errol Flynn swashbuckler movies, but they're in like really garish Technicolor, and Maria Montez is like this bigger than life sort of personality. It's really tragic. She actually died fairly young, and she never really had a huge career. She made 6 Technicolor movies for Universal, and then there's 3 of them here. And I believe that Kino has the other 3 from Universal, which I will link in the description. I know they at least have like Cobra Woman. That's not Technicolor, but they have that one, and then they have like Arabian Nights and a few other ones. So if you're interested in some of the other Maria Montez movies, I will also link them in the description. But yeah, these are a lot of fun. Gypsy Wildcat out of the 3 is my favorite. Out of all 3 of these movies, it's the most Errol Flynn, Robin Hood like. It very much has that kind of almost like a fairy tale kind of aesthetic to it. Like a lot of these old like movies that are kind of high fantasy. This was actually directed by Roy William Neal, who directed Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and kind of like what David says in his commentary track. They use the same sets, and if you ever kind of was curious what Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman would look like in color, that's the closest thing you're gonna get is this movie. And I have to say, these are all in 2K, and they look fantastic. Like these are the kind of movies. It's funny because like, when I was talking to David, he was saying about how hard these movies were to find, even like, but to have them now in these beautiful 2K, masters, is really amazing. So it's so here's the inside. It's just one disc, but even though it's like three in one disc, they still really look good. They sound good. Like with a lot of these movies, there is a little bit of like artifacts and a little bit of like rough spots, but overall, I mean, you can tell it's really quality work that they did. Like really, none of them I thought failed as far as looking really, really refreshed and beautiful. So I had a lot of fun with these. Again, Gypsy Wildcat's probably my favorite, but it kind of makes me want to check out more of these. When I told David I've never seen a Maria Montez movie, he said he was going to revoke my gay card, but I'm still good with that. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like I said, I will link the discussion that I have with David. He's it's kind of cool. We've been friends for like 10 years now, and it was like so like fun that we could kind of have this back and forth about some of these movies. And I have to say, it's not like I like a lot of like commentary tracks, but his are like far none my favorite. So definitely worth checking out.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm going to have to pick that up. I haven't gotten that yet, so I'm going to seek that out because all of those sound really interesting to me.
Yeah, like he actually persuaded me to like it was on sale recently, Cobra Woman, which is another one from Maria Montez that's like very like big and over the top, and I love kind of stuff like that. So and again, if y'all are curious about those, I will also put that in the description.
Awesome. Switching things up a little bit, from this year, or at least in the US this year, I have a French comedy put out by Music Box Films on DVD called The Rosemaker, which was a pretty decent sized hit in its native France. I believe it was released like last year originally. So this film, it's a very kind of just slight makes it sound bad, but it's just a very like easy film. Like it's about a woman who she is taking over her father's business. Like he dealt in like flowers and like cultivating flowers and everything. She is a horticulturist, and there are outside pressures from like corporate like people like corporate entities coming into that kind of like horticulture space. So it's kind of like a dynamic of like the little indie flower person versus the corporate kind of greed, and like they're not taking like putting honor in the business. They're not taking care with like what they're doing like in the world of horticulture basically. But where she's trying to protect her father's legacy, they're trying to buy her out, and then in comes this is kind of like a convoluted plot, but there is a trio of ex-cons who are hired on to help her with her business, kind of against her will, because it's like set up by her assistant. But then, of course, she comes to bond with them and comes to learn that maybe they're not exactly as they seem and stuff. So it's a little bit trite in a lot of ways, but it's also heartwarming if you're in that kind of mood. So like I said, it's just kind of like indie versus big guy, then like the ex-cons who aren't as bad as you think they might be. Like there's more to them than meets the eye. So it's that kind of basic plot. It's charming. It's not too deep. It's just like a lot like us. We watch a lot of films that are just super dark and like kind of like disturbing or just soul draining. And sometimes you just kind of need to like check out from that and just be like, okay, I need something that's sweet and like well done. Like the cinematography is great. And it's like one that I wish, like it looks great, so great that I wish this would have been on Blu-ray. Like I said, it's DVD only right now, except for digital, which I'm physical media all the way. So I wish this was a Blu-ray, but like the movie's well constructed and like this DVD is actually pretty like loaded with special features as much as you would expect. There's a nice commentary with the lead actress and the director. There's like a few interviews, like one with the director, one with the lead actress. There's some deleted scenes. There's like some like brief making of featurettes. And yeah, all kind of like in a nice DVD package. So if you're in the mood for that type of like light dramedy, that's like, it's not going to challenge you too much, but at the end just be like, that was nice.
Yeah, like a nice palate cleanser.
Exactly. The Rosemaker, I think, kind of fits that bill if you are into like if you're okay with reading subtitles too. Like French films, they're great. So like check this one out. It's not like high art, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah, nice. Kind of to that end, has there ever been a movie so disturbing you wouldn't watch it again?
Not yet. I kind of alluded to this last week whenever you sent me a picture, but like I am still kind of haunted by the memories of like watching Pink Flamingos as a teenager, of just like random items being like licked and stuff, and like stuff I'm pretty sure with like feces and stuff, and it just like it just it wigs me out just to think about it. I will probably give it another shot, but I doubt it'll be like that much of an improvement for me.
Yeah. I was gonna say for me, I'm trying to think, like, I know a lot of people say like 120 Days of Sodom like is a one they can watch once and that's it. I think I've watched that a couple times and it's not a weird flex, but like stuff like that doesn't like bother me that much, I guess. Like the one movie that is coming up supposedly in the pipeline is The Men Behind the Sun. Have you ever heard of that one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. if you get that from them, like it's very disturbing. Like there is one part where I believe pretty infamously they use like a real like body for like an autopsy scene.
Yeah.
And it's like a child's body at that. So
yeah. I will just say, like, I am going to talk, I'm pretty sure next week is when I'm going to do it. There's a new label called Visual Vengeance, which I was trying out. And I will just say, I'm pretty sure I am not going to watch any of those films again, but that's not because I'm so disturbed. I just think it's not my bag. But that's just it's along those lines. So I'll talk about that more next week.
Oh, ooh, nice little teaser.
Yeah.
To come back next week. My next movie, there's not a great segue into this, is about a killer dress, and that's I'm Dangerous Tonight.
Oh, cool.
And so also, I want to just take a moment and say I love Kino Studio Classics because look how absolutely stacked this release is.
That's cool. Yeah.
What drew me to this movie was it's a Tobe Hooper film, and it's a great year to be a Tobe Hooper fan because we've had Life Force on 4K, and that's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen that, it's a must. And then we're getting Poltergeist coming out really soon this October from Paramount. So yeah, so let me show this bad boy off. Slipcover, really beautiful, nice presentation. I believe that this not, yeah, it's not reversible cover art. But it is quite the film. I was really happy to learn that this is a made-for-TV movie from 1990, and you know how much I love cheesy made-for-TV movies. Like, give me all of them. Thank you. Keep them coming. So the plot is really simple. It's there's a cursed cloak that gets turned into a red dress, and of course, that red dress will possess anybody who wears it. So yeah, you could tell this is a pretty fun, cheesy TV movie. It's very flawed, but I really enjoyed it. I would say it certainly takes itself a bit too seriously, maybe, but Hooper always kind of had this signature wry and sardonic kind of humor, and I think that shines through here. Like there's a death of an elderly character that is really hilarious, and I can't tell if it was supposed to be funny or not, but it's a whole vibe. It's amazing. I love it. You also have like really awkward stuff, like they introduce new characters like well into an hour into the movie, such as Dee Wallace, who plays this fabulous serial killer. Like she's really fierce and amazing, and I love it. But then you have like Anthony Perkins, who's saying lines like, "You have sensed the power of the cloak," but he's saying it with such conviction that he's like he's still working with Hitchcock. You know, it's amazing. Also,
Nice.
Hitchcock.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So this is also a brand new 2K master. This was one that I watched a few times because of the commentary tracks, and I was not disappointed because there's a lot of really good information about this. There's like brand new like featurettes and interviews. It's a really stacked, nice release. It's good if you like cheesy TV horror, made for TV horror movies. If you're a Tobe Hooper fan, and we were talking earlier about being completists, so if you want to have some of his more obscure work, Kino's got you covered. So it's a really nice release. I was really happy with the kind of love and attention that this particular release got, because I am a huge Tobe Hooper fan. I feel like he's one of the truly unsung like landmark horror film directors. Like he doesn't get a lot of credit. Like Texas Chainsaw 2, I think is such one of like the best 80s satirical comedies ever made. So I'll just wrap it up with that. So it's great release. It's certainly worth checking out. And if you do, we always say this, but if you want the slipcover, you probably want to get it fairly soon. So, yep.
Yeah. I'm going to be incredibly frustrating to some of our viewers unless you can assist me with this. I was trying to rack my brain throughout while you were talking because this release seemed very similar, like in like tone and output from Kino Classics. I reviewed this Frank Darabont movie. It was like his first movie, and it was a TV movie like that, like around the same time, like the early 90s. And it had like Jennifer Jason Leigh in it. And it came out in like late 2020 or early 2021, I believe. And I would recommend, like, that's all you need to know. Frank Darabont, you can go from there, viewers, if you look. But it's Kino put it out, and it was also a really stacked release with a new transfer. So there you go.
Oh yeah, now I'm looking it up because you had me super curious. Yeah, it's really nice. And again, I think that they did a heck of a nice job. Looks great. Was it Buried Alive?
Yes, yeah. Buried Alive. I enjoyed that movie. It's a nice little thriller. So that's another like person who's like peripherally known for horror. Frank Darabont, like he's done like The Mist, but he also did like Shawshank and Green Mile. So if you want like an early made-for-TV horror film from Frank Darabont, Buried Alive is also a nice addition. So
Yeah, no, that's a great, that would make a great double feature. And I will also make sure to get that in the description as well.
awesome. Yes. Sorry for not coming with my full knowledge. I can only
Oh,
retain
no,
so
fine.
much. Yeah, so picking up with another kind of newer release. This is a 2021 film, and it is called Monday from IFC Films, released by RLJE. And this stars Sebastian Stan and Denise Goff. And here is the interior. This is one of those like IFC Films releases where it's no special features, it's just the movie. So there's only so much I can talk about with this, but I will just say the movie overall is good. It's kind of like a romantic drama where these two meet. There are two Americans who are one's vacationing in Athens and one kind of lives there. He's like been living kind of like bumming around for like a decade or so. They meet at a party and like they have kind of like a one night stand, but then due to it's an intended one night stand, but due to her getting kind of locked out of her apartment for a while, they spend the day together and start kind of like forming like actual connections and stuff. And she actually decides to like eventually not leave Athens. She upends her life and moves in with this guy played by Sebastian Stan. So it's kind of about their the ups and downs of their relationships, and there's kind of like a manic quality a little bit to their relationship. Like there's like really like hot passion between them, but then there's also like an underlying unsteadiness to their relationship because since they are so wrapped up in kind of like the passion and the physical and stuff, whenever they have to actually go about living their lives involving like Sebastian Stan has like a son that's kind of like not been in his life that he like maybe wants to have a connection with, and then she's trying to be like a parent, like a lawyer, but she's working out of a part. So it's like kind of all these logistical things that come up as impediments to their relationship. And overall, I would say it's a decent movie. I wouldn't say it's amazing. There are some really like intriguing moments, and then there's kind of like some more kind of like dull stretches where you're just like, okay, I wish you would kind of like tighten things up a little bit, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is just under 2 hours. I think it could have been like a tighter, like hour 40-minute movie. But if you like Sebastian Stan, which like people, if they don't know the name, it's like Bucky from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Denise Goff, I've seen her in a few things before, but she really made an impression here. I think she's like a really good like romantic interest, and she really like she kind of steals the movie for me. There are like a lot of scenes where she's like very vulnerable in very specific ways that I was really impressed by. Overall, like I said, it doesn't really completely nail it in the end, but it's a decent movie. I've seen mixed reviews and I can understand why. It's a little good, a little not good. So Monday, it's worth a watch, but don't go in with the right expectations.
Yeah, that like sounds really interesting, and that's definitely one that hasn't really been on my radar, but I like those actors, so I'll definitely have to like check that out. So here on out, I'm going to be just rolling with Kino Studio Classics, and yeah, we love them here. They are awesome, and the next one I'm going to talk about is really exciting for a lot of people, and I'll tell you why. But first, it is Planet of the Vampire.
Yes.
And this is Mario Bava, and there's the back. So this is a new release. Kino did put this out earlier, and then it went out of print, and then became very expensive. I actually saw people pay upwards of $60 to $70 for the old release.
Okay.
To be clear, the old release, not this release. This is the brand new, very affordable release with the slipcover. So let me show you this bad boy. Now this does have reversible art. So here we go. There is the original.
Oh, cool. I like that.
Yeah, and then it has the which I really like the new one as well. So, but I know it's nice to have that option. So, so right off the bat, let me. I had some people ask me like, what is the difference between the old release and this release, and um, simply everything was ported over from the old release, like the commentary from Tim Lucas, but then you get a brand new audio commentary from Kim Newman and Barry Forshaw. And I believe, do you have this? Do you have the older title of this one?
No, I had that version. I haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
Okay.
I never
Yeah,
never
no,
got
I was just curious if it had the trailers from Hell episodes or not, like the things or not. But I believe the biggest new thing is the extra commentary and the new 2K. So if you're kind of on the fence and you have the older release, that's just, you know, it is a little bit extra something something for you, kind of like how Marty gave you some extra stuff to make it a little bit more enticing. But if you were like me and you missed out initially, this is awesome because I'm a big Mario Bava fan. I try to have everything that he does. Like behind me, like all of this is like Bava. So yeah, the movie itself, I'll go real quick. So if I'm being brutally honest, this is like a C-grade sci-fi film story-wise, but while it's maybe lacking in narrative, Bava really turns it out. Like he gives us a really great neon gothic style. It's sci-fi, but it's very much pulpy horror as well. And you can very much tell that this was directed for like AIP. It's like very low budget. Actually, like Bava was pretty notorious for going under budget, which I think is kind of what attracted Sam Arkoff from AIP to Bava. But this is certainly a case of style over substance, where the plot isn't that amazing, but man, it looks great. And it's so weird that you kind of can't help but be transfixed by it. So this also is pretty notorious for borrowing things that would be later used by Ridley Scott in Alien. Scott has always denied that this was an influence on him. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, there's a little bit of visual similarity, but when you're drawing from a well of like pulpy sci-fi, I feel like it's maybe a case of sort of parallel thought and not necessarily like cribbing or stealing off of anyone else. So it's kind of interesting though, but that's kind of what this movie's sort of known for. But I know a lot of people that are really excited for this re-release, as was I. So it's not a spectacular movie, but it's fun enough. And now we have a really nice looking, like the 2K isn't flawless. There's still a little bit of scratches and artifacts, but overall it's really nice looking. I can't imagine this ever looking any nicer. You know, it's probably, so this is 1965, so they're probably working with the best film elements that they could. I know initially this was going to be a 4K transfer, but then it got knocked down to 2. And I'm assuming that's just because maybe the film elements weren't quite good enough to do a 4K. But the 2K still looks nice. I still think it's I've never, like full disclosure, I've never seen the previous Blu-ray, as I said, but I've talked to other people that say that it's a really nice, like the comparisons definitely noticeable. So take that for what it's worth, but I think it's a nice overall package. And again, if you want this movie and you don't want to pay like $60, $70 for it, now you can get this re-release that has everything, has an extra thing. I will say, also just wrapping up, I don't generally like do a critique of the commentary tracks, but this one was kind of wild. I had like I've never seen like a commentary track where the main like when you have two people, but like the one bulldozes over who they're sharing the track with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Kim Newman does here. Like he dominates this track to the point where it feels awkward. But it is still a really interesting listen. And it's a nice addition, but he loves to talk, and it gets a little like cringy because this guy he kind of has to like power through uh like to get a word in edgewise, so it's a little bit not respectful to him, but I still think that like the track is best when they can kind of share the space. But it's a new track though, so that's cool. It's exciting. I also got to listen to the Tim Lucas track, and that's also very good. So
Nice. Yeah, I don't want to like get us off too far on a tangent, but just really quickly, just you mentioning that commentary track thing, it just reminded me. I believe I talked about this a few weeks ago. I didn't go into the commentary track aspect though, but on the Arrow video release of Death Screams, there's a commentary track that really annoyed me because there was a guy on there with like two of the people like involved with the film, and I think he was more of like just like a friend who was along for the ride, and he was just like so lost on the plot and just like asking them like basic questions. I was like, why is this guy here? This is driving me insane.
Yeah.
And that was really like, I was just like, just need to kick this guy off. I was irritated. Yeah, but anyway, you often get on to me for my lack of Baba knowledge, so this might not be like the one you wish for me to like get into first, but it'll be among my first Baba titles that I get around to. So
yeah,
I'll give him a shot more after this just to see what else you can get into.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's you definitely will. I think appreciate his visual style, and I mean, if you're gonna like really get into Baba, like Black Sunday and Black Sabbath are kind of like, especially like Black Sunday, that's kind of the Rosetta Stone of like Gothic European horror, full stop. So
yeah, I mean, I'll have to report back and let you know what I thought of this one.
yeah,
Yeah, I keep it on the Kino Classics train. I'm excited to talk about this one. It is Times Square from director Alan Moyle, who fans of Warner Archive, they may have seen his movie Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater before, which is a really great release from them. So just plugging them. But this one, this movie surprised me. I'll just say, I'll get into it. So this does have double-sided artwork as well. Yeah, got there. So yeah, this stars Trini Alvarado, Robin Johnson, and Tim Curry, which is a name that stood out to me because I love Tim Curry. And just based on the look of this cover art, I was like, okay, cool, like a light 80s like teen comedy. That's cool, everything. Yeah, that's my jam. I love that. It's kind of that, but it's kind of not. The first thing that struck me is like, this is rated R, which I was not prepared for. I mean, it's not like explicit or anything, but just like with this cover art, it just seemed kind of like made for like a PG rating of that time. But it is R rated. There's like a lot of like rough language, and there's like nothing like explicit, but just kind of like some more thematically like dramatic scenarios than I anticipated. This isn't really a comedy. There are comedic moments, but there's like a lot of like drama, like angsty drama within this. And especially, it's about this is like she plays like a street tough kid. So she's like the streetwise kid who's like gets arrested and is always hanging around with like her like tough friends. And this other character, she's kind of like she's a daughter of, I believe he's a politician who has been like checked into like a mental institution kind of, but not like quite that level. She's like being evaluated, and she gets like a roommate, and that is this character. So they kind of become like unlikely friends, like the rich girl and like the street tough kid, unlikely friends, and they kind of like bust out of there, start living their best life, and all kind of like they are made notable because her dad is like a politician. And their kind of journey is like narrated by Tim Curry, who plays like a radio DJ who like plays by his own rules, and he's kind of like a maverick and stuff. So this movie, I don't really know how to explain it, but there are a lot of like dramatic beats that are a lot heavier than I was ever expecting with this. I liked the movie. I thought it was really well made. And I guess if you have seen Pump Up the Volume, you can kind of understand there's kind of like a dark humor to it, especially with like Tim Curry, and like there's certain like situations where like the girls are trying to like get a job at like a strip club and stuff, but then like one of them decides like, no, but I want to like dance with my clothes on, and she convinces the owner to let her like be like offbeat and like dance with her clothes on, and she's just having a ball up there. So it's just like these girls are gaining notoriety as they go throughout their lives, and it all kind of like culminates into, I won't spoil it, but it's good. I can understand why it's kind of like a cult classic, because it's a really like odd tone that I wasn't expecting, but once I got to the end, I was like, I could see myself like rewatching this and appreciating it even more. And I know a lot of people are excited because when this was released, they announced that it was coming with a new 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it looks fantastic. If you're a fan of this film, they do it with like, they do a lot of respect for it. And this has 2 audio commentaries, one by the director and star Robin Johnson, and there's also another commentary track by Kat Ellinger, who I always love. She always gives a lot of great context to things. So I highly recommend that. And I also know, just like anecdotally, that this, whenever it was first released in May, it quickly went like out of stock, and it's been like hard for people to get because so many people are apparently interested in it, and they weren't really anticipating the demand for it. So if you want this, I would kind of get to it sooner rather than later. I assume that there's probably still some slip covers left, but I wouldn't wait too long if you want a slip cover, especially if you're a fan of like 80s movies. This is from 1980, so I was like kind of right at the beginning of that. And yeah, it's a good time. I enjoyed this. It's a really solid release.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, you definitely had me at Tim Curry. So and I did like Pump Up the Volume. I thought that was a pretty interesting film. Like it definitely was probably darker than, as you say, a little bit darker than what you might expect. But speaking of dark, that's a good segue into the film noir, The Dark Side of Cinema, Volume 8. Really nice. I'll show you these. Oh, there we go. And yeah, so there's the back again. So yeah, I'll go through these each really quickly. There is well, let me take these out. Enter Arsene Lupin, which I think was like a literary character that's a little bit like Sherlock Holmes, but he was like a gentleman jewel thief. And this, it was a little bit more interesting when I learned that this was kind of based on like another sort of IP. There was actually some silent films based on this this character, but yeah, it's one of those like movies that you can tell that it's like a B programmer, but it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of high-spirited, like good hijinks. It's kind of like one of those, like, do you know what I mean by like cozy mysteries?
Yeah.
Where they're like in a mansion, and it's like it's like a really good time. It's kind of like it's very basic, but again, it is a lot of fun. Like, I sort of guessed what was going to happen. It's a little bit predictable, but I really like the cast. Again, it's very charming. You can kind of see that it's like one of those you were talking earlier about, with Rosemaker, with it not being like mentally taxing. This is definitely one of those movies. It's very breezy. It's a good time. And um, Street of Chance is my next one. And so here's the back. And that's another one that was pretty good. I mean, also very B level, but the big selling point is Burgess Meredith in this one. We don't often get to see him in like a leading man's like role. He's usually like a character actor in like maybe a bit part. So this was really fun. The whole thing is like he has amnesia and like he doesn't know like why these like shady people are after him, and like does he have this double life? And I don't want to spoil it because there are a few pretty clever tricks up their sleeves, but again, it was like something where I sort of like predicted the end a little bit, but again, it was still a lot of fun. Burgess Meredith is always a good time. He never like underplays things or overplays them. Like he's like in this role. He never phones it in. So that's really awesome. And then my final one is Temptation. And I think this one's my favorite. So this one has and here's the back. So this one has a notably bigger budget than the other two. It's set in 1900s and like well, there's like a flashback. It's a little bit complicated because there's like a flashback and flash forward. It's very Christopher Nolan like that, but it's takes place like they like flashback to like Egypt, and there's a little bit of a bigger scope and feel to it, which I like. And like the characters are definitely like having a good time, so this is basically about like an unfaithful wife, and there's intrigue and blackmail, and you never like on safe footing on if she's maybe just misunderstood or if she's like really like a awful person. And I kind of liked how they play with that sort of where you're not quite sure her character. But I don't want to like say too much more because I don't want to give it away. But it is a really fun movie. I think the actors are great. So these all have brand new 2K scans. And these all have brand new commentary tracks. So again, I'll just show you really quick the tracks that they have. And so yeah, so if you like these movies, it's really fun when you get like some really great commentary tracks. And yeah, overall, it's a really nice set. I like them. I think that it's not maybe the strongest volume as far as like quality goes, but they were all really fun. They're all about 70 minutes long, so they're nice, breezy, fun, enjoyable watches. So
That sounds great. I know you're a big fan of the Dark Side of Cinema series, so I'm glad that they keep rolling that along.
Yeah.
Another Kino title in association with Good Deed Entertainment, and this is the new audio or the new documentary, Bleeding Audio, the story of the matches, or the rise and fall of the matches. My apologies. So I will start out by saying, like, I am a sucker for music documentaries. I was not familiar with the matches before going into this, nor am I a huge fan of like pop punk music, but I just love music documentaries so much that I decided to like try this out, and I'm glad I did. I really enjoyed this. So yeah, Bleeding Audio. This tells the story of the matches who were kind of on the precipice of like big things in kind of like the late 90s / early 2000s. And then things just never really took off for them. But you get all of these people who like remember them and like kind of know how great they were like within their genre, talking about them and like kind of what exactly happened, along with some of their like own personal insights. So you have people like Mark Hoppus from Blink 182. You have members of like 311 and Plain White Tees. Like just kind of like describing kind of their early trajectory and like also themselves, just kind of like from like a ragtag group of like punk loving teens who like really had like a do-it-yourself aesthetic where they kind of like played local shows. They built a local following that kind of became kind of like a template for how to raise like grassroots efforts of like getting people to your shows that kind of other people would kind of copy in other scenes, up into like them deciding what label that they were going to go with. Did they want to go with like kind of like a buzzier like big label, or a label that would kind of like not give them as much of an imprint but maybe would like give them a more personal care, like personal attachment. So I really just like their story of like how like Napster comes in the picture and how that kind of upends things. And it's just like like a microcosm example of like the larger music industry and how you can kind of like build yourself up in this business and do everything right, but then just certain elements fall into place where things just kind of like you just don't quite get there. But it's not completely like a tragedy or anything, because you do get to see them in their modern context and like how passionate their fans still remain, and then like how they're kind of like working through old issues now and like kind of like coming back together in certain ways and like playing new shows and like just re-energizing their careers. So it's really a fulfilling documentary. This is kind of a random aside. My wife and I, we watched this together and we got very excited because this guy named Tony Thaxton, who is the drummer for Motion City Soundtrack, he popped up as a talking head. And like, we're just a fan of him in general because he is the producer of one of our favorite podcasts, Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. And he also has his own podcast called Bizarre Albums, which I highly recommend. He just kind of finds like weird albums like from like celebrities and like those types of albums and like deep dives into it. That's a side plug. But I was so glad to see him pop up and like talk about the touring life and like how it grinds on people and how it can like wash out even some of the best musicians. Like that kind of context from like a successful musician like him, along with all the other musicians, really just adds a lot of value to this. So if you're a fan of music documentaries, Bleeding Audio is a really good time. Like I said, even if you're not a fan of the genre, if you just want to know more about like the music business and how it treats artists and how to exist within it, it's a really strong documentary. So Bleeding Audio is a good time.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I know you love documentaries on music, so it's always a good time.
Yeah.
So my next one is from Kino, and that is Ice Cold Murders. And it is wild. So I was not expecting, like, when you're first introduced to this character, like very first, it's like this dude is like going to Pound Town.
Yeah.
Like he, they want you to know this is like not your grandfather's detective show. Like he fucks, you know what I mean? Like he kind of like to use the parlance of the kids.
Yeah.
He is, he
gets it.
Yeah. So and I kind of wasn't expecting that, but it was interesting because like he smokes pot on the job. He has affairs. It's really interesting, and I don't want to. Well, let's take a look at this. And inside, I know some people aren't a fan of these like disc things, but I like this a little bit more than like when they're like sandwiched into the things. But anyways, yeah, so what's kind of cool is so like there's usually like a two-parter. They're about an hour each, and you also kind of get to know him as a character, and so overarchingly you do get to like know more about like Rocco, or is that how you say it?
That's how I would say, yeah.
um
Rocco Schiavone.
yeah. Yeah, so you get to know more about his character, about his partner, like kind of it's really interesting because it's kind of a lot to take in, because I really wasn't expecting him to be like such a bad boy detective.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wow, like he really is just like doing all the things.
Mhm.
Like adultery and drugs and all that stuff. And like, listen, I'm not the moral police or whatever. I just it was interesting. But again, you do kind of get to know like his personality, his take on things. The cinematography is beautiful. Like, what do you think? Like, isn't this amazingly shot?
Yeah, I really love how the series looks. It really like captures those like breathtaking locations really well.
Yeah, like just to give you like like I think the first episode really is strong because I think it establishes not only his character, these like things that he does, but like the opening like murder like scene and stuff is just beautiful, and like how it's like takes place at night and it's snowing and it's really atmospheric. It's like beautiful, but like there's guy run over by a snowcat. So it's beautiful and grotesque at the same time, you know, which is always a good thing. So yeah, but I don't want to like spoil too much of it, but it is really fascinating. I just started season 2, which opens with him naked.
Oh,
You don't see anything, but like he's in the shower. And it's so interesting because they really are like selling you on this guy is like a sex symbol, and I'm like, okay, you know,
yeah,
if that's your thing, that's fine, you know, like.
yeah.
So it's interesting though. I really like it though. It's one of these really fun discoveries. I will say, even though like I am really good with like subtitles, it's like one of those like you really like a murder mystery, like you have to like really pay attention anyways, but it goes double for like this in French. And what's nice is they don't give you a dub version. It's like subs or nothing.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, like my motto is, you know, subs not dubs, but that's something that you might want to be aware of, though, if you're interested, if you think you might be interested in this. It is French. You do have to do subtitles.
Mhm.
We like subtitles here. That's not a bad thing, but it's just something that you all would probably want to know. So I think it's a really interesting series. I just requested seasons 3 and 4, so I'm like curious of like where this character is going to go. And I should be talking about season 2 very soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was very surprised whenever like I got that show and I was like researching a little bit and I was like, oh, it says the first season has 6 episodes, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. It's like each episode is or each like case is basically like 2 parts. And like it's treated almost like a movie,
Mhm.
where it's just like a like 2 hour story where it really gives time to like dig into these not only this case but these characters. Like it gets a lot of more character development than just this natural like procedurals you'll see like on our network television. Like you get a lot of nuance, and like you said, I don't want to spoil things, but there are like developments near the end of the first case that recontextualizes stuff within his life that I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I don't have this guy completely figured out, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a journey, and I do appreciate how there is a lot of great production value. There is a lot of great character development, as you said. Like season 2 starts off with a bang, so I'm really excited to kind of get into that more, and just kind of see how this sort of like plays out. Because again, it's like season 2 also does this where it's like a 2-parter. I think there might be even like a 3-parter thrown in there. So it's really well worth your time. I hope the subtitles doesn't like put anybody off from it because it really is, I think, a very fascinating like mystery show, and I think everyone should check it out.
Absolutely. Rounding out my releases, this one was, whenever I heard about it, I was like, oh, this is one of my most anticipated releases of the year. This is the Arrow Video 4K release of True Romance from Tony Scott and written by Quentin Tarantino. This is the standard like limit. There's like so many different variations. There's like a steelbook, a deluxe steelbook, a regular Blu-ray. This is just like the standard 4K because that's what I decided I wanted. Yeah, I'll show off the packaging. This, like I said, it comes with a J card, which I usually fold and put into the case itself. This comes with a thick booklet. So here, with a lot of like nice essays and art, like stills from the movie. This comes with a double-sided poster. A big one. So got the new cover art on one side and different art on the back. Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, you also own this release because you had talked about it with me offline. So there's also double-sided cover art. It's the same here. It is a 1-disc release and packed with special features. So here's the disc artwork, and finally some postcards, like lobby cards. So here, yeah, so a lot of swag if you get the first pressing, which I always like. I always like those chipboard boxes and the limited releases. I always seek them out if possible. So this movie stars Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater. It is a lovers on the run type story where Christian Slater kind of plays like this record store employee who has like kind of a romantic notion of like life with like he's like really into cinema and stuff, and then unbeknownst to him, his boss hires a escort for him for a night, but they eventually end up falling in love. He tries to help her get out of her business. She just started like 4 days prior, so she's a fresh new escort to the business. He tries to get her out of the business, and then insanity ensues. They have to go on the run trying to like sell some like drugs they came into contact with, and it involves the police and like Gary Oldman with a fairly racist accent, and like a stoner Brad Pitt and Michael Rappaport, and just everybody's in this. It's a stacked movie. Samuel L. Jackson makes an appearance. There's so many people in this movie spouting classic Quentin Tarantino dialogue, and I love that his dialogue goes with the Tony Scott aesthetic, because Tony Scott is such like a really tight filmmaker. I miss him. I'm so sad that he's no longer with us, but he was such a great filmmaker, and this is like one of my favorites from him. And the movie itself, there are some like problematic elements because it is Quentin Tarantino and he gets a little extreme sometimes. But overall, I really like the movie, even though, like I said, there's some, the way certain things are depicted are questionable. But this new release is incredible. It is a 4K transfer from the original camera negative. It is presented in Dolby Vision, and it's like the encode is so great, and the colors are so like deep and nuanced, and you don't have like a lot of spiking grain. There's not like a lot of artifacts or like nicks in the print or anything. It has like so many commentary tracks. This has 4 commentary tracks. I believe there's one from Tony Scott, one from Quentin Tarantino, one from Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette, and then one from a film historian. There are interviews with new interviews with some of like the production people on the crew. I think there's like 5 or 6 new interviews that are like 10 to 15 minutes each. There are deleted scenes. There's an alternate ending, which is a little bit more of a bummer than what we get in the movie. This is just such a stacked release. I was so impressed by it. Arrow really did themselves, and I am so glad to have this movie on 4K because it's always one that I dreamed of having on 4K, but I was like, when will we get to it? And it was this year. So yes, Arrow Video, thank you for bringing true romance to 4K. I highly recommend picking it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great movie. And it's definitely one that I think is well worth checking out if you're new to it. And if you're like a fan, this is definitely a good time to, I think, like upgrade. So my final film is also a 4K, and that is Stanley Kubrick's The Killing.
Nice.
And it is such a fantastic movie. Here is the back. So before I really get into the movie, I just wanted to, I know some people might be kind of curious about like what the difference is between this and the Criterion release. So I just have the Criterion DVD. I actually had not had the Blu-ray, so this was quite a leap. But just to show you, this is what is on the Criterion feature-wise, and none of that is ported over because generally speaking, Criterion doesn't like share their supplemental stuff. But good news is it looks fantastic. We get a commentary track on there, and so this also just has the 4K. This is not, it's not a dual release with a Blu-ray. So that's also something to be aware of. The movie's fantastic. I'm sure you've seen this, right? It's not Kubrick's first film, but I really feel it's the first time we truly get a glimpse into his genius for compelling stories with a tense sense of fatalism, and one of the best late entries in the classic noir movement. The Killing is as hard-boiled as they come, and maybe one of my favorite performances from Sterling Hayden and Elijah Cook Jr., and of course Colleen Gray, who is in a number of like classic film noirs, like the original A Nightmare Alley. So this was made on a budget, but it really thrives because of Stanley Kubrick's excellent direction and its precision screenplay. Like, this is all killer, no filler here. It's great. It's one of those that it's that classic, like I think George Carlin said it. It was like man makes a plan and God laughs. That's kind of this movie summed up, because I don't want to give it away, but it's incredible. It's one of those movies that is still incredibly fresh and tense and almost hypnotizing. As far as like how it looks, it is fantastic. Again, I've never owned the Blu-ray. I've only owned the DVD. So I think it looks fantastic. Like a lot of other Kubrick films, or like some of the other 4K titles, it's a little bit over grainy, but it's like not to the point where it's distracting. And you can really tell it's really nice, crisp, clean. The black and white is like the contrast between the black and white's handled really well. It's not like blown out, or it's not too dark. It's just really handled very nicely. As far as like if you should upgrade, I would say absolutely if you can. Like, this is probably the best it's going to look. Again, like, Kino never, I think, half-asses their 4K releases. Like, they know these movies are important to people, and they don't fall asleep at the wheel. Like, there's certain labels where they're 4K titles I'm a little bit anxious about, because, like, are they going to even work or not? But I've never really had an issue with any of the 4K stuff that I watched. It's always been like stellar work. So, The Killing is a classic movie. It's a fantastic, transfer, overall package. I probably will keep this just for like some of the little stuff that Criterion has, but overall, I think that this is like the one I'm going to go back to actually watch the film. And what's kind of cool is the Criterion release has Killer's Kiss, but as I covered before, Kino Studio Classics did that as a standalone in 4K. So now you have the pair, and man, it is great. It is so awesome to have these. So I kind of saved my favorite for last. This was a really fun, wide-ranging selection this time for both of us. And I think that kind of wraps it up. But as always, definitely consider commenting. Let us know what releases that we covered you're really excited for, and also what's some stuff that should maybe be on our radar that isn't, that we could possibly check out in the future. And definitely give us subscribe, because we will be posting content weekly. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.